Space is fake and time is also fake. And hear me out. These are not my 3 a.m. thoughts. These are Emergent Spacetime's words. Space and time are fake the way temperature appears from atoms bouncing around, the way wetness appears from water molecule, something that emerges. That's the idea. I need you to understand one thing. Emergent does not mean fake like a lie. It's like not fundamental, real, measurable, affects you completely, just that. So the next question is obvious. Is there any actual reason to think space and time works this way, or is just a random 3 a.m. thought? So yes, there is a very specific reason, and it is a fight. The fight between general relativity and quantum mechanics, the toxic love-hate relationship of physics. They are both completely right. They are both completely incompatible, and that incompatibility is exactly what broke spacetime open. For those who don't know the beef, general relativity says spacetime is continuous, smooth, geometric, unbroken. The bending of the spacetime fabric is gravity. On the other hand, quantum mechanics says the universe is probabilistic and discrete. Everything comes in chunks. Nothing is certain until you measure it, and their mathematics cannot coexist. And trying to combine them is like giving birth to an infinity spitting machine. This made sandwich out of physicists. Two perfect theories, zero compatibility, and nobody knows what to do. Until someone asks the dumbest sounding question in the room. What if space-time itself is the problem? What if we live in a matrix? What if this is a coded reality? What if the shared assumption that space-time is the foundation is the mistake? Then, Juan Maldacena enters the room with one paper, most cited paper in high-energy physics ever. He said, not exactly that we live in a simulation, but what if 3D universe with gravity is secretly a 2D universe without gravity in disguise? In simpler language, this is ADS-CFT correspondence. Think of it like this. The movie you are watching on a 2D screen was shot in a 3D world. All the depth, all the dimensions, all the physics of that world encoded in a flat surface. Same thing here. Our 3D universe, gravity, black hole, space-time, everything completely encoded on a 2D boundary. All of this sounds stupid, but the math totally works. A whole dimension of space just appears from something that didn't have it. Physicists were skeptical. If you ask me, I would have too, as who in the sane mind would think this world is simulation? But what this means is that gravity is emergent, space-time is emergent. It appears from the quantum theory on the boundary. But that immediately raises the most obvious question. What specifically is doing the building? If space-time comes from the boundary quantum theory, what in that theory is actually doing the building? What is space made of at this level, at Planck length level? I know, you heard of it. You just don't know it was doing this. It is entanglement. The spooky action at a distance. People describe it as two particles secretly texting each other across the universe. You can also think of it like Marvel movies. The more you know about the previous movie, the more connected you feel to the next one. The less you know, the less connected you feel. That's entanglement. The more two things are entangled, the more space is connected between them, and vice versa. So, distance, the gap between you and anything else in this room, is just a measure of how untangled the quantum stuff underneath is. You are close to things because of quantum relationship, not because space exists. Space is just the side effect. In other words, space is what quantum entanglement looks like from far away, like a fabric. The space-time fabric. That fabric is stitched together by entanglement. There's even a slogan for this. ER is equal to EPR. An Einstein-Rosen bridge, the technical name for a wormhole, is physically the same thing as quantum entanglement between two black holes. This is the same kind of wormhole that appeared near Saturn in Interstellar. The one they jump through to reach a completely different galaxy on the other side, entanglement built that portal. As you know, human never takes the same way, so other physicists went completely different ways. Different mathematics, different starting point, different theories. But they all end up in the same place. Loop quantum gravity. Loop quantum gravity says space is pixelated, discrete chunks, quantum pixels. Look at it from far away, smooth space. Zoom in, grid-like structure. Minecraft basically. These pixels are called spin networks. Find that too complicated? Casual set theory is your guy. Just delete geometry entirely. Look at only two things: events and the order they happen in. Space, distant geometry, all of it emerges from that. Casuality is the floor, space is the furniture. Even string theory, our moon knight also has a say. The tiny vibrating strings, the space they live in, not the real space-time. The real story is on a holographic boundary. Everything else is emergent from that. Three completely different approaches. But notice what all three have in common. None of them has space as the foundation. Space is always the output, never the input. And here's the thing you would have noticed. None of them have time as the foundation either, which means I owe you something from the very first line of this video. I said space and time are fake. I shown you space, now let's talk about time. In quantum mechanics, there is an equation, the most important equation in quantum gravity, called the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, which has wide implications. Time doesn't appear in it at all, not hiding, not implicit, just gone. The most fundamental equation we have for the universe, and time is not in it at all. Just like all three theories had no fundamental space, they have no fundamental time either. It's not coincidence, it's a pattern. Time, just like space, has to be explained. It has to emerge from something. Think about it like this. Imagine the entire universe frozen, every particle, every field, everything completely static. Would time be passing? No, because time isn't a river flowing in the background. Time is change. No change, no time. At the quantum gravity level, at Planck length level, there is no external clock ticking somewhere. There is no universal now. Time is just what you call it when one thing changes relative to another. It's rational, not fundamental. Even the arrow of time, the reason time goes forward, not backwards, not fundamental either. That comes from entropy. Things go from order to disorder. You cannot unscramble an egg. The way one street is where your sense of forward comes from, not from time itself. So here is where everything lands. Space, emergent from entanglement. Time, emergent from change and entropy. The stage, emergent. The clock, emergent. Both built from the same ground floor. Quantum relationship. Information, connection. Every moment you ever lived happened in a space and time that might not be fundamental. That's not nothing, that's everything. Every memory, every place, every person you ever stood next to. All of it in a space and time that emerges from quantum relationship underneath, from entanglement, from information, from something that has no space and no time in it whatsoever. The universe at its deepest level has no space, no time, no geometry. Just quantum relationship woven together in a pattern so vast that when you zoom out far enough, it looks like 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. We are living inside the output and the input. Whatever is actually generating all of this, we are just starting to understand. Space is fake, time is fake, and this is not my 3 a.m. thoughts. But the universe is. And hey, keep it in mind, it's still a concept, not a fact yet, but the math is pointing hard.